Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Maximum Octane. As usual, I am super excited about my guest, and why? Because I get to pick them. So today, joining me is Mr. Eric Goodnoe from M&D Repair in Hasslet, Michigan. Where is Hasslet, Michigan, Eric?
Yeah, so we're around all the lakes on the
Okay.
map and the ocean, but yeah, we're central Michigan, the capital of Lansing, Michigan, right in the
Okay.
center of the state. Uh, so in near MSU campus, a really nice area to be in the state because we have access to Detroit and Grand Rapids, so we really sit really well as far as a repair shop in central Michigan. We have a lot of resources, so it's a great state to be
Well,
in.
that is
So,
awesome. And I just want everybody to know how patient Eric was today because I am not where I usually record from and at our headquarters. And so the background's a little different. The equipment's different. My computer blew up. Poor Eric, I kept emailing saying like 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes. And so he really was just wonderful. So I appreciate that. And it's always important to have backup to your backup to your backup. So luckily, when the one computer didn't work, I could plug in another one. And when that didn't, I could plug in another one. And just a daily
right.
reminder to be prepared for stuff. So you have a lot going on. And I kind of want to work this a little bit with the end game in mind because I think a lot of times when people do things or they build their business or they buy buildings, they just are in the moment. They're hurrying up and doing things. They're looking at 3 feet in front of them. And then we're like, holy cow, at some point we need a succession plan. And if you start with your succession plan in mind, you have something, a direction that you're always pointing towards. So when you're doing buildings and all of this stuff, buying buildings and all the things in your business, it's with a plan and not just in the moment. So you've had a lot recently. You transitioned ownership and leadership from the business from your father and had to help provide how his life was going to carry on out there in the real world and a building and all kinds of things. Do you want to just touch on that a little bit before we get to here's the big picture?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, a number of years back, 7 years, 8 years ago, shortly after we obviously joined ATI 10 years ago, we thought, well, my dad was like, well, we're going to have to exit. I'm going to retire. So what do we do with the business? And so that was a main strategy for a number of years to get him to that stage of his life. And we started with the business succession, developed good surrounding core value of people that were able to help support a good foundation for the company. So once we built that, then we tied it into, trust and what your path was. And at one time, it was really, really cool to get through all that. And then we exited my dad out of the business from the day to day, and we're like, yes, we made it through
And you're
succession.
like,
Awesome.
yay! Succession
you
part
know,
one, because now we need a succession for you. But go ahead.
yeah. So then we, obviously, we decided to build a new repair center and grow our business. So we went into building this shop and building for the future. And next thing I know, I joined another premium group with ATI, and one of the KPIs was, where are you on your succession? And my first instinct was, well, shoot, I'm at 100%. And then a month later, another month went by, and I'm like, shoot, I built a new building. I got 10 more employees. I got, people that want to move up within the company. What does their succession look like in my company? Where are they going? And I'm like, God, I'm back down to like 40% on my succession plan. And so I'm like, and that was the moment right there that I told my coach, and I was like, what if I look at this, now that I'm turning to the next generation in our family repair shop, how am I going to go about business from day to day? What's that going to look like? And that to me was like, I need to figure out where I'm going and where everything's going to be so that I don't work backwards. I want to set that succession up and then take care of the items that I know that need to happen to make
Right,
that
you need a
happen.
target to shoot at.
So,
So one of the things
right.
that I just think is awesome is the last time I saw your dad, he had just got back from living on his boat or something like that. He just was having
Yeah.
he's having the time of his
Yeah.
life, and it's just so wonderful to see, because a lot of times when there's a transference of either ownership or leadership, and especially in a family business, some people can't quite let go, and things don't always go in the right direction, and they have to. And it was such a beautiful and powerful thing to me that your dad was just like, he could be unplugged, gone out on a boat, just living his best life now. And he had the trust and the faith and what you had built together, and then what you continued to build, to not have to worry and to have confidence in letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't an easy road. My road was probably easier than his was. Um, and we thought the transition would go fairly smooth. We actually reached that day and he said, I'm at retirement, and he exited the business. Well, if I had any recommendations, I think I can speak on behalf of my father because I know him pretty well. He exited and he struggled. He had been around the shop so long, and his love and passion of repairing vehicles. Now he had many other things to do at home, but it was just such a quick change. So if I had any word of advice, maybe try to take a smaller step when you reach that point. Maybe say, okay, I'm exiting. You're taking control of the business, and then give that person one or two job duties. Maybe it's entering the portal data and giving customers a ride home. Right? Give them something to get that quick little pride and joy. And next thing you know, they're in here for an hour, and then they get satisfied, and then they go home. Right? So just being cautious of that life change. It's a huge impacted moment,
Well, I
right?
don't think a
So
lot of people realize how their identity is so tied up in the business. And when you're doing something, it's almost like an empty nest for parents, that once your children, you're spend however many years taking care of your children, and then they move out, and it's a wonderful thing, they're moving out and doing their own thing in their life. But then
right,
it's like, what is the role now? Like, what do I, this consumed my life for
yeah,
18 years now what? And some people really struggle with that. And so,
yeah. Well, you're probably like, what
yeah.
just happened?
I never felt like, in
So
speaking with your father, though, that there was any doubts in his mind of your ability to run things. That there was never at least outwardly, that I saw anything where he was like, "Gosh, I can't step away because of the business won't continue on the way it should." It was more about,
right,
what do I do now? This has been me in my life for so many years, but I think
right,
having you there to take it over really made things better for him. He didn't have that too. He didn't
absolutely,
have two sides, where some people have to worry about the legacy and the business going on, and also their identity. So,
right, exactly.
well, awesome. So is it weird now? So you went through the succession, you transitioned, and now you have to start building that same succession plan for you and for your next second in command, and then building the backup for them and all. How is that going?
It's going good. I mean, again, this was pretty top priority as far as one of my company goals, and a personal goal. On top of that was to be not so much in the day to day worrying about where's my business, where are the cars coming from, but was to think of where the business should be or needs to be in 15 years. We built a building, we have we have a mortgage now, and we have to know where we're going. So it's really exciting to know that we can kind of structure the path, and put these key moments into the future, and say, okay, it's much easier to find that either that sales number or the achievement from, key staff, role employees. If you have those monuments that you can go and pinpoint them, what if they weren't there? Like, you just you're just
Mhm.
going, you're almost flying blind, right? So my opinion is that I think if I work this from the backside first on succession and then grow the business from there, I think I can impact not only the company but all the employees at a much faster rate, in my opinion. So
Excellent advice. And we talked about the transition a little bit and the adjustment for your dad, but what about for you? Because being the second in command for your dad, you were doing a lot of the things and oversight and stuff now that you're having to let go of because now your second in command is filling that role. So how did that feel for you to make your transition from second in command into, did you have any trouble or what advice do you have for people needing?
oh yeah, we did. I mean, my second in command, he's been with the company 7 years. um, Great salesperson, and just such a hard worker, and he fit right in, obviously. And we kind of teamed up and said, we need somebody like you to help us get to where we're going, right? And what are the benefits for you? And yeah, there was struggles along the way. I definitely will say that it was an adjustment because, you know, just like my father and I, you know, he was moving up into my position, and just the other day he says, "Man, I'm almost there. I almost got your position now." Because he wants my job. So you know, um, yeah, there's definitely points where you need to you have discussions through day to day, and try to remember the good things that you talk about, and even the things that you struggle with on business. Maybe try to analyze those things and talk about them, be upfront with each other on, hey, we did this wrong, or I did it wrong, and I should have listened to uh, the guy that was running the shop. And we're definitely learning as we go. We're younger. We're in our early 40s. So we don't know everything, but um, just the teamwork, and we're able to flip our positions fairly easily if we need to. If I'm out of the business, he can do my job, and vice versa. I can help him with his job, and just having that open relationship, and moving forward together. So in talking about it, like the one, the one-to-ones, we're not perfect at it, but when you have those conversations and you talk about, what are we doing and what are we doing wrong and how can we make it better? It's just a communication and just putting it out there,
I
right?
love that you just brought up one-on-ones and the scheduled structures because so many people, when we talk to them, they say, I don't have to do that. We have an open door policy. But when you have an open door policy, first of all, no matter how much you say that, no one wants to go in and bother you if you look busy or you look upset or you look whatever. They're just not, even though they say there's an open door, right? And stuff starts to fester. But also, if it's just an open door policy and just pop in when there's something to discuss, which you should have that in addition to one-on-ones, but it's not with intent. Where you just mentioned when you're meeting with your second in command now, it's, how are we going to do this? How are we going to grow the business? What are we doing here? And there's intent in the conversations. And when it's just a open door, stop by a toolbox or say hi in the morning, it doesn't give you that framework. And I think people don't take it as serious. And you want to have a direction, right, for the time, because everybody needs a return on investment for the time they're spending.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, because when I built the repair center, we chose an open floor plan. We designed it as, offices everywhere. I was supposed to have my office, and I decided to go with just took all the walls out. My door's open. Like I am an employee just like anybody else. I told them in the goal setting meeting the other day, I said, I look at myself as equal to everybody in this business. And there a couple of them looked at me like, but he's not. He's the owner. But you know, that's the thing. Having that open door policy is awful nice, and I always thought we were connecting through that openness. But you're right. It's just we're finding that scheduling that time and taking the effort to actually key in on those points of business or how that employee is growing, or maybe there's something that I need help with and I can one-to-one with somebody, right? So we're trying to do better. I don't think that's a very difficult topic. I think people staying on task of those one-to-ones, because there's a lot going on in the repair shop every day.
There is a lot, and
you
that's why
know
it's even more important to have those scheduled times and to make that commitment. And if there's always going to be an exception that something comes up, but to make every effort to reschedule that so that person does have that time. And it's the only time really that
right.
anybody's guaranteed to have your undivided attention too, on both parties, that this is, in the moment what you're doing. So you talked about building now, you have a mortgage, 15 years you have. So your succession plan that you're building, what are some of the things that you're looking at? Because you're saying by year 15 or whatever date it is, I need to have XXXX in place. So here's how I'm working it backwards and starting now.
Honestly, just I kind of get the input from where each of my employees want to take the business and kind of build it around them. Who's looking to stay for the long run, and where can they help me, and where can I help get them where they're going. But yeah, I have a 15-year plan. To be. I don't want to retire when I'm 55 because I'm 42, so that puts me at 15 years of 57. I'm not going to retire, but I would like to. I would like to do something else within our industry, whether it's an instructor or teaching and education in the automotive industry or auto body collision, which is my main background. So that's my passion, is to get that business in that 15 years so that I can move on to my next endeavor, right? So what does it look like? Again, I don't, we just opened doors to our new facility 3 months ago. So I got a lot of open-ended questions for myself, right? But I do know this much, like a lot of our key core values of our business that have been in place for a number of years, and our mission statement, our what we value in our community. Like, I'm basing it all around what has fueled our repair shop to become what it is today, and turn it into just to a much greater service center. We've got a lot of cars that we're more based on a repair shop. We've never been huge when it comes to fluid exchanges and maintenances. We've always been a lot of fleet repair, bigger corporation truck fleets, in automotive broken, that people call us because they know we fixed the broken cars in town, right? So we have a whole nother avenue, the marketing aspect and the maintenance side of things, that I think that's where we're going to see our biggest growth, and where we would like to take the business would be fleet maintenance and company maintenance. And I tell my customers, if I'm sitting in the lobby, like having a B&I one-to-one with a B&I member, and people think that a vehicle is just a vehicle, but we can do so much more for them, and help them budget. It's just like going to the dentist, right? You go twice a year to get your teeth cared for and fixed, right? How can I help these people budget car repairs, let them understand, okay, you have a 7-year-old car. If we do these things, we can save you X amount of dollars in repairs if we maintenance it, and in turn give them a budget, so they're not, when their car breaks, oh my God, where am I going to come up with
Right.
$3,000? Um, I mean, the vehicle is like a whole nother part of your family. I mean, that's what
Yeah, it
gets you
is.
to it gets you to work. It gets you to the kids'
And they
sporting
cost
events.
more
It
than
gets the
my
kids.
first house did. So,
Yeah, exactly. So like, how can we make that easier? I guess that's what I want to take our maintenance, and that's how my business got where it is today. Is just the love and passion of caring for our customer. It wasn't about the vehicle. Anybody can repair a vehicle, that's certified, but taking care of that customer and showing that you care, taking the extra time to ask them about how their day is going or what's their future plans or where do they want to be, getting to know your customers is more than half the battle of making that sale at the counter on the vehicle repair.
absolutely.
It's getting that connection. um and that's something that we do very, very well here. I'll pride and say that that's a game changer for us. So that's what my succession is based around, is what we've done so far and how can I build that even stronger and taller and better than it is today. So
That's awesome. You mentioned that you have a lot of open-ended questions. What are some of the questions that business owners should be asking themselves right now when they're thinking about their succession plan?
I think first and foremost is not only where you want to be, but where does your son or daughter want to be, and when they graduate, and what their life is going to look like. So you can tie your company succession and your own trust and will into your kids and your family, right? And maybe you don't have kids, find some sort of um, avenue to strive after to make it the succession that you want to see. Um, yeah, I'm not really good. That you kind of hit me on the
That
spot
was a
on that
perfect
question.
that's a perfect answer. That's a good question to start with, right?
Yeah,
What does the
um,
succession look like? Or if you're transferring ownership or
yeah,
leadership, who is that going to be? Will it
right,
involve somebody you know, a family
yeah,
member? If that's not an
yeah,
avenue, do we look
right,
outside? So that was a perfect
right.
answer.
And I have two very highly committed key role employees. I want to say almost everybody in my building is committed. I know that much, but two of them, I mean, um, they are so helpful, and they care so much about other people and the business and each other's families. So I personally, I don't need all the money in the world. I just want to have a, a fun time repairing cars with some people that I know, and if they're successful and they can build a good career and a good life and a good home, that's what I want to strive for. At the end of the day, I know if I worry about that, everything else will work. I'll make money.
I'm glad that
I'll get the things I
you
want.
mentioned that, because sometimes we have conversations with business owners and they say, I'm making all the money I need. I don't want to grow the business or look for other avenues of revenue or anything. And when we stop and talk to them about, you might have everything you ever hoped and dreamed for and want, but do all of your internal customers. So maybe you have everything set away and your retirement and your whatever plans, but do all of your internal customers, because if not, if you truly don't want any more money or don't need any more money, how can we distribute that to the internal customers so they say the same exact thing, that we have everything we ever wanted or want, which I know is something that really drives you, is making sure that they're feeling like, and they're in the same situation you are, that they're not wanting for anything and they're all living their best
Yeah,
life because they have the resources, whatever that is, and whether that's time with their family or financial. So
yeah, could be both ways. And I just would like to say that at the end of, if those two employees that are highly committed, that like, wouldn't it be really special if I could, at the end of uh, their retirement, what they're going to do next, when they get done working at the shop, what are they left with? What can A&D Repair provide to them? And I would love it that we can establish some sort of benefits or something that are always there for them. I mean, if they went 20 years with my company, like, to me, that'd be unheard of to do something like that. Even if it's, only a few $100s a month or something through a life insurance or some sort of Roth IRA. I don't know what way to do it, but like, that'd be really special if a small business like mine or anybody else in ATI or any other business, like, that'd be pretty cool to really take care of somebody like that that's worked so hard their entire life.
Well, that's one of the things with our industry. When you think about most, for independent auto repair shops, there's not a pension when they put 20 years in. And one of the biggest things that I see people talking about or hear them when they retire is the cost of health insurance. And many people after they retire are going back to work part-time somewhere just to cover that. So even if there was a way, to help supplement their health insurance or provide
Right.
them with some piece of it later, but that would just be amazing to be able to do that for
Right.
sure.
Yeah. Because I'm sure, take back what, yeah, I do want to have a good amount of money when I
Right.
retire. Go do whatever I want to do, right? Or, invest it or send the kids off to college. In my opinion, it should be endless. But, when you put your mind to something, you can pretty much go after and get it, that's how we've always operated in our family. So
succession planning and any of that stuff, sometimes when I speak to people, it's almost like they have a set it and forget it mentality. Yeah, we put together a plan and it could have been 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, and they don't look at how the world is changing, the business is changing, the economy is changing, the workforce is changing, and that's not something like anything in our business that we can just be like, yep, I wrote that, I'm done with it. It doesn't need any other tweaking or me to look at it. What advice do you have for people
yeah.
that think that?
Oh, like in regards to a process or a procedure?
Any of that.
Like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, it's always changing, I don't know. I'd have to ask, my dad or anybody else that has gone through career and life and work and, did things change so quickly back 30 years ago, 20 years ago? They probably did, and we just didn't know it. We didn't think of the repercussions or the benefits of it. So yeah, I mean, it's just like we said at the beginning, if you think you're done with something and you're going to file away and it's going to be hunky dory for the next 2 weeks, and maybe it's not.
It needs constant nurturing, just like your internal customers and your external ones, right. And it all needs constant nurturing. You gotta.
Yeah, I think if you can put the people in place and delegate the responsibilities appropriately and put urgency on, some things are urgent on a day-to-day, like the digital vehicle inspection. That happens multiple times a day. What are we doing? It's always changing, right? It could change from one day we're super, super busy and we have a hard time keeping up to, oh my God, we have 7 less cars today. How do you do the DVI differently? Just being aware of how those things change from a day to day, depending on shop flow or who's doing them, right? So, yep, just always being aware, I think, of the most important thing you can work on at that given moment, because any one of us have, I'm sure, a pile of things to work on every day.
Not me. So, I don't have anything to do. I don't have to worry about.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about, you had the IT issue this morning, we could get into diagnosing computers, in trucks and cars.
For sure.
It's always
There's
something
always
different.
Something different. You always have to be prepared for that plan B and what if this doesn't work out? So, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, we made it through that and we were able to still connect and probably have a discussion that benefited both of us, I think, for our days, keep moving on, right, and improving.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
is that why you do uh, podcasts? You what do you get out of all the communications and talk?
For me, for the podcast, I, made so many mistakes in business, especially when starting out. And I truly, truly were blessed with a lot of wonderful people in my life that gave me advice and mentored and all. And so I like people to not suffer from some of the things that I did, and to also not feel alone, because there's so many people we talk to in small businesses and they just feel like the world is coming down on them and nobody else understands, and all these things are happening, and they feel truly alone, and they're not alone because so many people are going out there. And I love the idea of giving people a platform that they can share ideas to help motivate and inspire other people. Like you just mentioned about, if there was something you could do if your people were with you for 20 years, is there some kind of ongoing forever that you could take care of them? So that just sparked a whole thing in my head of what can we do? And I'm sure people listening or watching, because we're on YouTube now, are saying, "Dang, I didn't think about that." And what would that look like in your ads, and when you're trying to attract people, and the stickiness and
Right,
longevity, and just, it's a great thing to do, right? It's just because you're such, and that's what I love speaking with you, is because you're just such an incredible person that you really do think about how can I benefit others. So wonderful.
right.
Well, I thank you so much for joining me today. Any final words do you have for our listeners?
No, I'm good. I mean, like I said, I met with some other coaches earlier this week on a Zoom call, and that was really really special to talk about construction of our building, and Brian had asked me what the key takeaway was, and it's just simply, you know, while same thing I told Brian in that meeting was just, you know, find where you're headed, and ask questions if you don't know what you're doing, and do your best, and I don't see where you can go wrong.